Hi, I'm Eileen Mary Grealish, known by many as Mary Grealish or even Mary G. Welcome to Pittsburgh. I've mostly been associated with the wraparound process throughout my work life, but along the way, I've managed to work in just about every setting there is, and my most important lesson learned is that regardless of the setting, if the plan is not completely individualized, it will not work. And the only way we can make sure a plan is individualized is to build it on family strengths, cultures, special memories, values, relationships, even the murky thoughts or sometimes clear thoughts of the life they'd like to live one day for themselves and their loved ones. That's why we created the SONA, the Strengths, Outcomes, Needs Assessment. It comes in two parts. Part one of the SONA is a group of questions that come together into a wide-ranging conversation that allow people to begin to engage families. This is where trust begins. The second part includes life domains. Now, life domain areas are areas in which each of us have needs that go met or unmet literally every day of our lives. When we find out what those unmet needs are, we can go back to everything we've learned about the strengths, the relationships they trust, put all this information together, and come up with a strength-based, completely individualized service or treatment plan. The SONA is not that hard to do. You'll have to rely on your own good judgment to ascertain how long this should take, how many questions will be asked. You'll have to watch the receiver and be very careful to make sure this conversation stays positive. But remember, they may feel anxiety, fear, nervousness, all kinds of things. So first, you'll really have to work on engaging them in order to get some of these questions right. The good news, our part one questions are a miracle of engagement for almost anybody who's tried them. They take you there so quickly that it goes from a chat to a conversation and then to a back and forth discussion, which is what we need to do the job. Let me say a minute or two about the old way, and it was all about pathology. It was difficult even to go home and be around my family. I was sitting around diagnosing everyone with all kinds of things. So off I go, absolutely certain that every family I met would bare their souls to me the first time I showed up. Well, it didn't work. I expected that everyone would like me, and unfortunately, no one liked me. I kept bringing up too much painful information, and the problem with them not liking me is that they would never tell me anything that was really important to any of them. I thought about that long and hard. I wasn't sure what to do, and I thought, am I being polite to these people? And my immediate answer flashed down, no, you are not being polite to these people. So I decided, and I adopted it as a rule for my whole career, was number one, impeccable manners. Every single time, under every circumstance. If I didn't know what to do, and that happened a lot, I did the most polite, respectful thing I could think of, and that helped people trust me, and again, helped me engage the family, and the family trusted me more. So that has been my philosophy ever since. I approach families, regardless of what's happened, with respect and with impeccable manners. I'd like to give you 3 examples of the use of the SONA that worked and produced profound results with little cost over the lives of 3 children. I'll start with April, an 11-year-old shaking with anxiety. This poor child was so terrified she couldn't get through a school day, so she left. So they're looking at truancy, where she is, run away. They're thinking about referral to day treatment, where all the other children are depressed, anxious, acting out, and so on. Looking at those options, we implemented the SONA. We found out that she loved books, she loved the library in the school, she loved the librarian, and that more than anybody, her grandma was her hero because she sang songs and poems with her over the phone. And so, with medication received from her psychiatrist, medication monitoring, both of those very helpful. This wouldn't have worked without it. We also added a therapist who worked with her on stage 1 of mild anxiety, stage 2 of moderate, stage 3 of severe, and for each one we tied a response that fit her strengths. Read silently, signal the teacher if it didn't work, move to the library, talk to the librarian and quietly file books, and if that didn't work, she called her grandmother and sang songs and read poems over the phone until she calmed down. With that intervention in place, there was no referral to day treatment. There were no referrals at all. April successfully completed 4th grade, 5th grade, and 6th grade at that school. When I met Jenny, she had just lost custody of her 3 boys due to severe child neglect triggered by an opiate addiction. She went to 28-day rehab. She did all the things that she was told about the sponsor and working steps in a notebook, signed meeting slips, all of it. So she was well on her way, but we needed to find something else because she lived 4 houses down and across the street from her dealer. And I asked her, who are your heroes? And she said, well, my hero is the prophet Daniel, because he was brave and strong and full of faith. Many of you know Daniel in the lion's den. So we took cardstock and we put her favorite quotes on one side of each card, so she would have them with her. She adored her father, and he had so many funny, encouraging sayings. On the back of each Daniel card, we put a saying from her father, and we laminated them. And as she walked around the world, as the dope called her back and sang her name, which is how she heard it and how she told me she heard it, she pulled out the book of Daniel cards. And she read what Daniel had said, she read what her father had said. Meanwhile, we borrowed an electric keyboard from a music store in town, and she began again to sing with her mother, something we knew she adored, again from implementing the SONA. Her chances are much better, and she did get her boys back. We were pleased to see it. Sean was 16 when he was busted for beating up his 14-year-old girlfriend and was sent by the court to a locked facility to do at least a year of time in punishment for what he had done. Being a juvenile facility, any trouble he got into there, and he was around a bunch of boys who were also in trouble, would extend his time over and over again. What Sean needed and never had was a moral code. And what we learned from the SONA was that his heroes were military. Saving Private Ryan, American Sniper. He watched each movie carefully and extracted piece by piece exactly what he considered a reasonable code of conduct with soldiers and conduct soldiers should never commit. He had adult help in doing that. There were veterans among the staff, and it was compelling how quickly Sean adopted his own moral and ethical code in his hopes one day to be a great soldier. The best thing I learned about engaging families on their lives and on their truths and learning their strengths, turns out people rise. Watch for it, respect it, support it every way you can. It's the most important tool we have. Don't let it pass you by. I hope the SONA is as useful for all of you who are watching this as it has been for us. Thank you.